Hi everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to crochet. It's very easy. It's a thermal stitch beanie. It's actually kind of a slouchy, more of a slouchy, but you can adjust the size if you like to make it fit more of a beanie. It's very easy to adjust the size. Now this would be suitable for a man or a woman. And before we start, I want to ask you not to forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. That way you don't miss out on any of my tutorials or any of my other videos that I put on. So you can leave the palm off if you want. This palm came from Amazon. And that's completely up to you. So I'm going to give you a size. Lengthwise, like I said, this is a slouchy. It's about 10 inches long. You can fold up the brim if you'd like, or leave it as a slouchy, or like I said, you can adjust your chain count to make it as long as you'd like. This should fit about 19, probably the 22-inch head. Again, easy to adjust the size on that. So how this is made is we start a chain, and it's worked in a long rectangle right here, and then we seam it up in the back, and then we cinch the top together. So basically you're making a rectangle, and then we fold it together, sew it up, and then we tie the top off and put a palm on if you want, or leave the palm off. It's completely up to you, but it's very easy. It makes a nice thick fabric, very thick, very warm, very, very pretty. I like it. I do. I like it a lot. Let's go and get started on this. Okay, for this project, I used Malabrigo Rios yarn. It is a medium weight number 4, and it's a 100% superwash merino. You don't have to use this yarn. Any 4-weight yarn will be just fine, but if you're interested, this is the color that I used. And there are 210 yards per hank, and you're going to need about, of any 4-weight yarn that you choose, approximately 270 to 280 yards to complete this hat in the size that I did. And then I'm going to be using a size J, which is a 6mm crochet hook. Alright, so the chain that you make is how tall your hat will be, but you have to take into account for where we gather the top up. So if you want to follow along with me, I chained 41 stitches. Now this stitch can be done in any number of chains, so if you want to make it shorter, you can make it shorter. Just any number of chains is fine. There's no particular multiple that it has to be in. It's a very easy stitch to do. So following along with me, once you get your chain of 41 done, what we're going to do is we're going to, you see the chain here? We're going to be working in the loop here that's on the back of the chain. You see those little bumps there? We're going to be going through that one loop there. So we're going to start off, we're going to put a single crochet in the second stitch from the hook, but we're going to work it in that one loop there in the back. So this is going to be the hardest part of the hat, is getting the first row down. So in the second stitch from the hook, you do your single crochet into that back loop. See it right there? It's just that one little bump. You just go right through it and single crochet. And then again. All the way down for the length of your chain. It's a little tricky, but you get the hang of it. See that? And that's what it kind of looks like. So I'm going to continue putting one single crochet in that little black back bump, that one loop on the back side of my chain, until I get to the end of the chain. Alright, once you make it to the end, if you're following along with me, you should have a total of 40 stitches now. So that is the number we're going to have the whole time now, is 40 stitches. And now we're going to start the thermal stitch. So row 2 is actually the repeat row for the whole pattern. It's just a 1-row repeat. It's very easy to do. So we're going to start off, and we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now the first one, It's a little tricky. So we're going to go back into that same stitch that we just went into, but we're only going to go into the back loop. So if you look closely, there's the loop that's closest to you is the front loop, and the loop that's furthest away is the back loop. So you're going to go ahead and go in to the back loop like that, and you're also going to go down and grab the loop below. So in this case, the very first stitch, it's this loop right here. So go into that loop, just one loop, that loop there. And you see that you'll have 3 loops on your hook. So yarn over and go through those first 2 like that, and then yarn over and go through all like that. So that's how you do the thermal stitch. It's a single crochet thermal stitch. So we're going to do that all the way across. So let's go ahead and do it again. So you see the chain here. We're going to be working in the back loop. So we go through the back loop of the next stitch, and then if we look down below, we're going to go into the loop down here like that. Yarn over, go through those first 2 loops, and then yarn over and go through the other 2, just like that. Again, I think I always find it easier to kind of flip my, see, this is my chain upright, to flip my chain on its side. That way I can visibly see the 2 loops that I need to go through. Don't worry if you're finding it kind of difficult at first. It's not. You'll get real easy and you'll be flying by. Go through the back loop on the first stitch, and go drop below and go through that loop there. Pull through like that. Again, go to the next one, go through the back loop of it, drop down to the bottom, go through that loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, and then yarn over and go through those 2 like that. Again, go through the back loop here, and then the bottom loop down here, yarn over, go through the first 2, and then yarn over and go through the remaining 2. Again, do the back loop on that first stitch and down below the first loop like that. Yarn over, go through the first 2, and yarn over and go through the remaining 2. And this is what we're going to do for the length of our chain. So it's just like a single crochet, but we're doing it a little bit different. So remember, here's the top of our chain. We're going through the back loop of the stitch, next stitch, and then the front loop of the bottom stitch. And I'm going to continue this until I get to the end of the row. And when you come to the end, you want to make sure you go into the very last stitch and do the same thing. You can kind of see the loops there that you need to go through. Back loop here. Here's the front loop of it. You want to go to the back loop, and then right down here, this loop. I have to put it up on my hook like that. Yarn over. There we go. So that will complete that row, row 2, and you should still have 40 stitches. And your chain should measure somewhere in between 10.5 and 11 inches, something like that, if you're following along with me. So now we're just going to repeat that again. It will get easier. I know it's a little fiddly doing it that way, but it'll become really easy. So again, we're just going to repeat. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work. So the very first one is always, I think, the hardest one to do, for me anyways. We go back into that very first spot here, but we're going to do the thermal single crochet. So we got to go into the back loop of it. It's the twist. It's hard to, so that's why I always lay it on the piece on its side. It's just easier that way. Grab that back loop, and then this loop right down here below, and then go ahead and go through, yarn over and go through the first 2, and yarn over and go through those 2 like that. And we're going to do this all the way down, just like we did before. So the back loop of the next stitch, drop down, and this loop right here, and then again back loop of the next stitch, and then the bottom loop down here. It's actually, the bottom loop down here is actually the front loop from the previous row that we did not work into. So again, back loop, and then the loop down here. And if it's twisty, that's fine. It'll straighten out the more rows you do, so don't worry about it if it's twisting up on you. That is normal for it to be twisty. Back loop, and then this bottom loop down here. Back loop, and the bottom loop down here. You see how much easier it is when you put your chain on its side versus upright? Well, to me it is. So here's upright. Remember, we're going through the back loop of the next stitch, and then the bottom loop down here, which is actually the front loop for the previous row that we skipped. And we're going to do this all the way down. It's the exact same thing we just did on row 2. Pretty soon you'll be ripping through this. It'd be really easy. It's just the first initial couple rows till you get a stable piece of fabric, and then it works out really easy. Just like that. So you see how mine's twisting? That's fine. It's gonna do that for a little bit. Okay, when you make it to the end here, you want to make sure you do the last one, so the front loop or back loop on the first one, and then the loop here, just like that, and that will complete that row. And then we just repeat it again. So we're going to chain 1, turn our work. First one is always the hardest. We go right back into the very first stitch, but we got to go through the back loop of it, and then the loop down here, there we go, and then we work across, back loop at the next stitch, and then this loop down here is the front loop from the previous row that we skipped. And this is all there is to it. We're just going to continue doing rows like this, back and forth, just repeating row 2. Now, following along with me, you'll always have 40 stitches at the end of each row. You want to make sure to try to keep count so your hat stays uniform in size. But I'm going to continue this back and forth, doing this thermal stitch. Now that's what it starts to look like. It'll be the same on both sides. So continue back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, going through the back loop of the next stitch, and then drop below and get that front loop from the previous row that we didn't go through, and do your single crochet. Again, back loop, down below, front loop from the previous row, and single crochet. Back loop, front loop from the previous row, single crochet. Back loop, front loop from the previous row, single crochet. Back loop, front loop from the previous row, single crochet, all the way to the end. Back and forth, back and forth. Just make sure you have 40 at the end of every row if you're following along with me. All right, so got my piece as long as I want it to be. So you can take a quick measure, and you can make yours as long as you want to fit your head, whatever size, you know, how you fit around your head. But you have to remember that there is a little bit of, you want to leave a little bit for stretch. So if you look at mine measures about 19.5 inches long. And I have about a 21.5 inch head. So go ahead and leave about an inch, you know, for stretching purposes, because it's going to stretch a bit. Okay, now once you get that as big as you want, we're going to seam it up. So here's where I stopped. Now I didn't tie off. I'm just going to continue with my yarn, but I'm going to slip stitch it together, and then I'm going to flip it right side or inside out, right side out. So here's where I ended, right here. If you look here, okay, so there's my last row. I'm going to chain one and turn my work, and then I'm going to put my work folded in half like that, and now we're going to slip stitch it together. So what I'm going to do when we slip stitch is we're going to go through the back loop just like normal of this piece, and then the bottom loop down here like normal, but we're also going to grab this piece over here and we're going to go through that one loop here. See that? And we're going to pull it, and we're going to go through all three of those loops like that. Well, there should be 4 loops on your hook. We're actually going to slip stitch, I guess, through all 4. First one's always the hardest. There we go. Just like that. Now this is how we're going to do it the whole way down. If you feel more comfortable using a yarn needle and sewing it together, you could do that too. Just make sure your stitches match up. So I'm going to go over here to my next stitch, and I'm going to go through just like we did when we were doing the thermal stitch. The back loop here, this loop here, then I'm going to come over here to this piece and grab up this one loop over here. And see those 4 loops that are on my hook now? I want to slip stitch through them all like that. Again, jump to the next one. So we go to the next stitch just like we go through those 2 loops like we're working a thermal stitch, and then we go grab up this loop on the other piece. So I do have 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on my hook, yarn over, and just go through all of them like that with a slip stitch. And we're going to continue this all the way down until the whole piece is sewn up. Now don't make sure you don't get it like pull it too tight, your stitches too tight, because then it'll start crunching up like that. You want to kind of try to keep it as even as possible. Oops. So there's those 2, and then this one here, and go through all of them. All right, I'm going to continue this until I make it all the way down here to the end. All right, I made it all the way to the end, and I went ahead and I'm going to clip my yarn and clip my yarn and just tie it off like that. And now I'm going to flip it in the opposite direction, inside out, right side out. So it will be more flat on the opposite side. There will be a seam, but it should be a nice straight clean seam, and it is nice. All right, now we're going to go around the top and the bottom. So let's go ahead and start. I'm going to start near the seam, that way, you know, it all starts all my seams will be in the back. So what we're going to do is try to evenly space out some single crochets across the top. So you can go and just go in. You can kind of tell where the end of each row is if you look. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. There's not like any certain number that you have to have. So go ahead and start your yarn in any stitch. I'm just going to start along the seam here. And you're working on the sides of the singles, so it will be a little bit harder to see, but just do your best. Chain 1 to evenly space out. Go back into that same spot and single crochet. Do your best to evenly space out. 1 single crochet all the way around. Try to put one kind of at the end of every row. That's what I usually aim for. But like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is going to be the top, and we're going to sew it up together, or cinch it together. So just do your best to kind of evenly space them out. See, mine's not perfect. And like I said, there's no certain amount that you have to have. I'm not even going to count. I'm just going to go around and try to evenly space out 1 single crochet all the way around until I get back to my starting point. Alright, I'll meet back up with you right over here. Alright, so I have made it all the way around. Now, I didn't slip stitch or in the row or anything. What you want to do is tie off a really long, just clip your yarn with a really long tail. See, here's where I started. I didn't end with the slip stitch, and these aren't really even, I evenly spaced them the best that I could. So now what you want to do is take your really long tail, and we're going to sew up the top. Yarn needle. And we're just going to start by going into a single crochet, go through both loops like that. I'm actually going to do every other single and skip one and go back from behind like that. Skip one and then go forward. So we're not going like over, we're going back and forth, and I'm skipping a single crochet each time. And again, this is going to be the top of the hat. It's going to be sewn up, so it doesn't have to be perfect. We might be a little bit cleaner when we get it down to the bottom, but for now, I'm just going to do this all the way around. And every time I get so far, I kind of just give it a little bit of a tug, just to kind of see what it's going to look like there. Alright, I'm going to continue around, skipping a single, going through one, skip one, back through the other, and I'll do this all the way around back to the starting point. Alright, I have made it back around, and I still got my yarn, so what I'm going to do is just gently pull it shut. Careful so you don't break your yarn. Some yarns are a little bit more delicate than others, so I just do it kind of gently until I get it cinched up at the top. Just work with it, and once you get it closed up pretty tight, we can sew it up the rest of the way, and then as we're sewing, we'll be hiding our tail. So get it kind of tight. Just make sure you don't break your yarn. See, there's a little bit of a hole in mine. That's fine. I will take care of that as I sew it together the rest of the way. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go back and forth along the top. and kind of pull it together. Do it as neat as possible though, even though it is the top of the hat. In case you don't want to put a palm on, it'll be visible. So you just do the best that you can to get it sewn up as neatly as possible. I'll probably put a palm on mine. We'll see. I'm not certain. But as we're sewing it shut, we're also hiding our tail at the same time because we're going the back and forth motion here. We're just going to hide our tail. So just do this till it's good and tight, good and sewn, till you feel like it's not going to come undone on you. And then you can clip off your yarn. Let me look at it. On the hole showing. I might excessively sew mine together. I guess you can't do it too much. Don't want it coming undone. There we go. All right. Okay, I think that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and clip my yarn real quick. Okay, once you get it all sewed up, now you can put a palm on if you want, which is what I will probably do, right on the top. To attach your palm, you can do that in many ways. You can, and you can make a palm if you want, or this palm came from Amazon, or you can leave the palm off, whatever you want. Some people sew the palm on. Some palms have buttons like this one, or you would sew a button here and button it onto it. I actually hot glue my palms on, so I'll get a hot glue gun and I'll put some hot glue on my palm and a hot glue at the top of my hat, and I'll hot glue it on, and it will never come off, ever, ever, ever. Ever. But I do hand wash everything that I crochet, so when I hot glue it on, I hand wash it and then lay it flat to dry, and then I just floof my palm out again with a blow dryer. But you can put your palm on any way that you want. You don't have to do it the way that I do it. Like I said, a lot of people sew them on, so however you choose to do that. And then when that's done, I'm not going to do anything at the bottom. Actually, I think I'm going to leave it. I like it the way that it is. So you can wear it as a slouchy, or you can roll it up like that and wear it like that with the palm on, or a slouchy. That's it though. That's all there is to it. I think it turned out nice. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my hundreds and hundreds of other tutorials. So if you make this, though, I'd really like to see a picture. You can post a picture on my Instagram page. Hashtag me at Bagoday Crochet. And that's it. Until next time, have a good day. Stay safe. Bye, guys.